Hi folks, you're with us today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the effects of the new social rules of wokeness and equity and equal outcomes that are now imposed all across the Western world under threat of imprisonment, even if you disagree with it. That's how severe things are these days in the West, and indeed how insane they are. So we have a situation now where the least socially capable, those who have the least to contribute to society or to the civis generally, are the ones who are deciding how the rest of us should live and behave. So if that's not a recipe for insanity and self-destruction, I don't know what is. But let's sort of have, I've seen a few examples sort of recently and some from a little bit before. And I'm just going to talk about the sort of people that, because these are new rules of social interaction. You know, the slowest person now decides how fast the race can be run. So the idea is to handicap and hold back anyone with capability and capacity, and then artificially boost and reward those who have the, who are the least capable. So, and this is in all social spheres as well. Now, sort of running parallel to this, if you like, is the social power totem pole, where those that are presumed ideologically to have the least social power should have the most legal power and the most power to attack and undermine those who are presumed to have greater social power. So there's a lot of treading on eggshells for people who are presumed to have more social power, and a lot of destructive power being given to the perverse folks who allegedly have no social power, but now have enormous power to be disruptive and destructive. So here's sort of a few examples I'll run through. This is at a dog walking park, I suppose you'd call it, in a reasonably affluent suburb, but they've got like a halfway house there for abused women or allegedly abused women. And now, remember, they don't separate these places between a woman with severe mental issues, such as bipolar or something like that, or a woman who's been abused. They don't separate the two. They, instead of saying, well, this woman's got bipolar and needs help, they'll instead categorize, well, this is an abused woman and we have to give her shelter at the taxpayer's expense, when in fact that's not necessarily, in fact rarely really the case. Not that it doesn't happen, it does, but women with bipolar are routinely given a free pass by saying, well, you're just an abused woman. And so no one ever and she doesn't deal with her problems, and no one is inclined to deal with it. It's easier to record it as a statistic for oppression of women by Hitler. So anyway, I'm at the dog park, and there's a neighbour that goes away a fair bit, so we agree to look after their dogs and give them a run at the park, that sort of thing. So we're I'm in the park with the dogs. This woman's there, and she's clearly not from the area. So I would guess that she's from a very down at heel area, the look and the attitude and the way she's dressed and the mannerisms and so on. So definitely not from around there. And so she's there with two young children. I don't know, they'd probably be somewhere 5, 6 years old, somewhere around that, and some small dog. And the woman clearly has serious mental problems. She'd call the one of the children to her, and come here, and the child would come, and then when the child got anywhere even remotely close, or stop pushing me, you're hurting me, stop pushing me, you're just like your father, aren't you, you're hurting me and pushing me, you know what happens to people who do, and so straight away, when you could see the look on the kid's face, well, I'm nowhere near, I'm not touching you, what are you talking about? And she was constantly doing it, just over and over. She just wouldn't stop doing it. Imagine the harm that's doing to the children. And she saw me looking at her, because it's close enough, but she saw me looking at her, and you could see from the guilty look that she gave me back, she knew she was doing the wrong thing, but somehow couldn't help herself, just couldn't not do it. And then did it again. I did it multiple times. And the boy came near. He said, "Oh, Mum, can I have?" I think she had like in a bag a drink or something, and he wanted a drink, and so she did get the drink out the bag, but was no need to push me. There's no need to grab it from me. What stop it. And the boy wasn't grabbing, and he wasn't pushing. He wasn't doing any of the sort. He wasn't touching her. So she was making up this fantasy of that she was being oppressed. Now she's quite a solidly built woman. She was no shrinking violet attitude, and was I don't know, probably 5'8", 173 centimeters, and quite heavily built in that sort of vulgar furniture removalist type sort of build. And so this was her, and she just did it. And in fact, even at a distance, I could tell that she was still doing it, deliberately calling the children to her and then saying, "Stop pushing me, stop hurting me, and you're pushing me over." And these are children that weigh a few pounds and not pushing her over. So I can imagine that she was doing something similar to some male companion she had, and the guy got sick of it and clobbered her, I suppose. Should he have done that? Well, maybe not. But what she needs is help. Her mental health is in a bad way, and she needs help to do that. But in this sort of situation, her mental health, no, she's oppressed. She's oppressed by the damn fascist Nazi white boy. He's the one. We've got to fix him. He's the one. He's the problem. And so she's not getting the help that she needs, and she's able to brazenly behave in an antisocial, destructive manner, destroying those two children, in my view. Imagine their ability to have relationships as they get older with someone like that, showing them the way. They're fucked. I'm really. But no one's stopping that. No one's taking the. Instead, if they looked at it objectively, they'd say, "Why is this guy? He seems reasonable enough. Why is he behaving this way?" No. He is fucking Hitler, and that's the issue we're dealing with here. So now, how many women are like that out there? I would suggest tens of thousands. To varying degrees, maybe not that overt, but to varying degrees, they're out there. But instead, she's getting taxpayer resources thrown at her. She's getting treated like this oppressed victim with, the lesbian social worker types, fussing around her and, "Oh, it's not your fault, it's him, he's the one. No, you've done nothing wrong. You're oppressed. It's your lack of social power that's causing this." And so these perverse incentives are existing and creating, indeed producing. This woman, she knows she's doing the wrong thing, but she knows that by doing this and going down this path, that not only will she not will not suffer in any way because of it, she'll be rewarded for it, given free accommodation, free food, free handouts, free this, free that, told she's a victim. And for someone in that bad mental state, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's him. He's the bad one. And so she's never going to address those issues. And those two children, wow, what's going to happen to them? So now let's go to another one. There's I'm sitting at a coffee shop. My wife's going to do shopping. When she says, she wants to go around to a few shops, so she's going to be a little while. So I'm sitting down with a coffee, and there's a few magazines and newspapers there. So I'll wait. And now just sort of next table across from me, there's a couple who, a man and a woman who is pretty much the same scenario. He's going to wait while she goes off and does some shopping. You can tell straight away by the way that she's sort of interacting with him that she's trying to position herself as a victim. So what, you just gonna leave and and when I come back you won't be here, and the way she's telling, she's baiting him. She's trying to bait him to sort of bite, and he's looking a little perplexed, and And he said words to the effect of, "No, I'll be here just like I am every time. What are you talking about?" Oh, well, can you just promise me you will be? So I'm thinking, why is this guy hanging out with this woman? She's obviously got mental issues, obviously, from the way she's trying to bait him and position herself as the victim and him as the oppressor, but quite aggressively doing it. Anyway, she sort of goes off and does the shopping. Now she comes back while I'm still there, and I spot her. Now he's got his back to the like the wall at the cafe, and so she's got free access to the table from probably 280 degrees, 270 degrees around the table. She's got easy and direct access from the sidewalk. But she approaches the table. I'm looking up, and I see her. She approaches the table, and you can see her making an assessment of how am I going to play this? Is she just going to sit down? So I've finished my shopping, darling. Do you want to finish your coffee and we can get going? As a normal person would. But this is not a normal person. This is a woke creation. This is a person created by a woke society. And so she approaches the table, stops, looks, she's calculating, she makes up her mind, and then she comes in behind where he's sitting, where there's a gap of only inches. And so she comes round that side of the table where she clearly can't get behind. So she comes in behind and then pretends to be trying to squeeze past his chair. And and they go, "Can't you move the chair? Can't you see I'm trying to sit down?" And he, as you can imagine, anybody would. He looks at the open 270 degrees around the table. She could have easily sat down, but instead, no. He's oppressing her. He's preventing her from sitting down. That fucking Nazi. So she's a victim again. "Oh, can't you? Why do you have to treat me so disrespectfully?" And so, but the whole thing was a concoction. Now, here's another example of, in my view, a woman who's got mental health problems, but is encouraged in our society, our woke society, the social power concept. I mean, maybe she's a primary school teacher, and God knows most of them are fucked up. But that was her thing. She calculatingly and willfully and with premeditation set about creating a confrontation where there was no confrontation. There was no cause or basis for it. Another example I'll give, and I'm using this, to illustrate the sort of people that are being created in our society. And remember, the globalists are targeting the people with in the social power totem pole, the ideological side, are targeting them and saying, "Well, you're oppressed." And it's those damn straight white males that are doing it. And this is their race, gender, and sexuality, divide society, climate change, divide society, make it dysfunctional, make it so it can't function. And these people are whenever you want to destroy society, go to the women first. They'll be your allies, and just tell them they're oppressed and they're hard done by, and all this sort of stuff. And there many, not all, but many of them will then come over to your cause just because of the clarion call, not because of any facts or objective assessment of anything. Nor will they see the damage that they're causing and how that damage will then form a tidal wave that will come back and drown them eventually over the longer term. So we're out at dinner, and there's I don't know, it's one of those sort of dinner party type things, and there's a woman there again, a school teacher, and she and her husband. Looks like they maybe had a few words in the car coming over. You could kind of see there was a little bit of a tension there, and she was determined to provoke him in some way. It was definitely her shtick, as you could see. So she again, you could see the premeditated nature of the thing. There was a fairly narrow sort of archway one side, and the one side of the or leading into this dining area, and because of the number of people, they'd extended the table out so to cater for it. So the end of the table was minimally obscuring was an obstacle, if you like, to going out of this archway at the end of the dining area. So Now, I happened to be facing her, and I'd spoken to her about a few things. So there was a sort of a calculating look came over her face. She'd look at the husband, and she would then hatch her plan for how she could create confrontation. So she looked at him, and then she moved her chair to block the exit to the out to go out from the dining room. And then she looked at him, the husband, and said, "Oh, I left such and such in my bag. Can you go and get it for me?" And he, because she had an easier access out of the room, but he quite reasonably said, "Well, why don't you get it?" So, and oh no, I'm not feeling well. I don't really want to. Why can't you get it for me? You're always putting me down. You never do what I want. And so she was baiting him again. Straight away she saw the opportunity to bait him. So he's on the side, and then got up, but he had to come around her chair to get out of the dining area. And of course she blocked it. It was all part of her little sort of plan. So she blocked the chair, and he said, "Well, can you let me pass, please?" And spoke quite politely. And she she rolled her eyes and let out a sigh, and then moved the chair sort of 1 millimeter. And he again asked, let me pass. And "Oh, I've already moved the chair. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me in front of all these people?" And again, the whole thing was a set piece. I mean, she's prepared to create this massive scene, invent it, precipitate it, structure it, all premeditated. And she wouldn't. That once that was sort of it, he'd had enough, and so they were, daggers drawn, if you like, the rest of the dinner, which fucked it up for the rest of us. But she was quite determined, and she was adamant she was the victim. She is the victim here, and the outrageous oppression of him trying to push past her chair. Who did he think he was? Hitler? And these are just. I could go on. In fact, there's one more I just saw a little while ago. There was a very large woman. I'd say, 6'3", 6'4", and probably 150 kilograms. More than 300 pounds, and. Given the half-caste nature of the children, I would suggest she'd got together with some very large Pacific Islander sort of guy, and and I'd say it hadn't gone well. That there was probably quite a bit of, I would think, looking at her, mutual brutality, but there was a few children in tow, I think 3, and similar to the woman in the dog park. The young boy, again, would have been 4 years old, perhaps. She was walking along, and he, like most kids, was sort of walking just behind him. And she stopped abruptly, and he bumped into her. And the woman straight away was like instant reflex. "Well, stop pushing me. You're pushing me. You're hurting me. You know what happens? You know what happens to boys that hurt women, don't you? That's right. They go to prison, don't they? Yeah." And straight away she was into it. Now, again, obviously a woman with mental health problems, her issue wasn't, I mean, maybe choice of partners could be an issue, but her issue wasn't that there was an oppressive man, that she was constantly baiting him so she could be a victim. And so here, this is the sort of people our society is creating. Now, exactly how many people like that can any society sustain before it collapses under its own weight of its own social dysfunction? Remember, we're creating these people in Western society now. Not only creating them, we're multiplying them as best we can with crazy social policies. And I think it's a major problem, and it's multiplying by the day, and to the point where it'll be very hard to reverse. You've been with Tacitus today, and your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.